Federal Judge Scott Wright has denied a move to hold Crown Center Redevelopment and the Hyatt Corporation liable for the collapse of the Hyatt Skywalks. Class action lawyers had been asking for a partial summary judgment against the two companies, but Judge Wright turned them down. This is the latest move in a year-long legal battle stemming from the Hyatt tragedy. Michael Mahoney has more.
The disaster at the Hyatt Regency Hotel may make legal history when it comes to mass disaster lawsuits. The statistics generated from the legal work are staggering. 170 Hyatt suits have been filed in the state and federal courts. More than 160 claims for damages have already been settled, totaling more than $24 million. Much of that money paid out in what is called structured settlements.
It really is dispose of the case now and pay later, payments over a long period of time. And a number of the cases in the Hyatt tragedy have been settled in that fashion.
Edward Scanlon settled his Hyatt case that way last winter. He lost his wife at the Hyatt and sued for $8 million. He settled out of court for more than $700,000 for him and $700,000 for his children over a period of time.
Well, we just wanted to put it behind us and get it over with, and that's why we made the decision at this time. So.
Not all Hyatt victims have settled so quickly because the case has been tied up in legal maneuvers. Not only are the victims' attorneys suing the owners, builders, and managers of the Hyatt, but they have spent months fighting among themselves over trying the suits either one at a time or collectively through a class action suit, a suit that was first approved by the federal courts and then thrown out of court. It's now on appeal. And if the appeal stands, it is possible that no Hyatt suit will ever be tried. They'll all be settled out of court. No trial, no blame assessed.
We are prepared to go to trial and willing to go to trial and capable of going to trial. But if the client desires to settle their case, then we must settle. I think that if the public is deserving of some explanation or knowledge, that we ought to look to officials representing the public, in other words, the special prosecutor.
It's no surprise a year after the Hyatt disaster that the courts are filled with lawsuits, some aiming for trial in the spring, others aiming toward a settlement. And it's possible within the next 6 months that all the Hyatt cases will be settled out of court and no Hyatt lawsuit will ever be tried in a Kansas City courtroom. Michael Mahoney reporting the news.
Some anniversaries we celebrate, others we merely observe, and so it is with the Hyatt Hotel disaster of a year ago, Saturday night. This evening on Cover Story, we begin a three-part report on the Hyatt 1 year later, the lessons learned. We'll go back to the hotel, the Hyatt, scene of the city's worst tragedy, to City Hall to find out what's changed in its building codes division that could mean another Hyatt won't happen. And we'll talk to one of the survivors of the Skywalk's collapse, the last person pulled alive from the rubble. The Hyatt 1 year later, tonight on Cover Story on the 10 o'clock update. Some anniversaries we celebrate, others we merely observe. And so it is with the Hyatt Hotel disaster, the Friday night on July 17th a year ago, when the sky bridges came crashing down. For the next 3 nights on Cover Story, we'll talk about some of the effects of that disaster. What's happened at City Hall to make sure there's never another Hyatt. We'll talk to somebody who survived the disaster and how he's lived this past year. And tonight, you'll hear about the hotel, whose name will forever be associated with this town's worst tragedy.
March 1978. Then Kansas City Mayor Charles Wheeler and other city officials on hand for the Hyatt groundbreaking. No shovel of dirt turned, but a small explosion, and construction will soon begin. October 15th, 1979. The Hyatt's first misfortune. A large chunk of roof caves in, but it's the weekend. No construction work is going on at the time, and nobody is injured. But then, 10 days later, another accident. This time, a construction worker is struck and killed when a 4x4 falls from an upper story. 9 months later, the $50 million 733-room Hyatt opens with a splash. And like others in the chain, it features a dramatic atrium lobby. Here in Kansas City, a new design, suspended sky bridges. A year and 16 days later, those walkways would crash down on the lobby, crushing hundreds attending one of the hotel's popular Friday night tea dances. July 22nd. 5 days after the hotel disaster, investigators are on the scene to check the rubble for clues to what went wrong. But the third-floor walkway, the one that did not fall, and debris from the two that did collapse have been removed. Hyatt officials admitted the third Hyatt walkway was a danger, and it too might have collapsed. The decision to remove it and the debris angered some attorneys. They complained the Hyatt was in too much of a hurry to reopen and may have unnecessarily tampered with important evidence.
If the design or construction of the existing catwalk removal gives us a clue of what happened to the one that crashed, it certainly should not have been removed.
As you know, the debris has been moved. We have not had a chance to see that. And maybe after we get a chance to see that, we may know a little bit more. But right now, there wasn't much that we could see.
But Frank of the National Bureau of Standards in Washington did soon examine the debris as the front lobby was being reconstructed. And then on October 1st, the hotel was ready to reopen.
Based upon its review, it is the opinion of the technical committee that there is no valid reason to question the safety of the Kansas City Hyatt Regency Hotel.
Once again, a flurry of activity at the Hyatt. Few who entered seemed concerned for their safety now.
No, it doesn't bother me in the slightest. It doesn't, I've got enough faith in the rock construction companies, and I got enough faith in Hyatt House that they're not going to let that happen again.
Since then, it's been business as usual for the Hyatt. Hotel officials believed it would take 2 to 3 years to recover from the disaster. They tell me it's only taken a year. The Hyatt won't reveal its occupancy figures, but claims they are at normal levels. The hotel will say it's hosted more than 378 conventions and meetings, 250 more booked for the remainder of the year. 60% of the employees who were working at the Hyatt a year ago are still there. This bartender tells me when guests ask him about that night, July 17th, he refers them to the front office.
It was a tragic thing, obviously, and something that if I'm typical, I think the average person would feel that they've remedied the situation, certainly by now. And it really did not affect my decision as to where I'm staying in town.
It's kind of an odd feeling to stand in the lobby and look around, but it looks like the problem's been corrected, and I don't think there'll be any problem with safety here.
I think of all the sorrow that was created by this tragedy.
Do you feel uncomfortable coming in here and where we're standing now?
I had a bit of a strange feeling when I walked in, yes.
The Hyatt tells me the hotel is booked full tonight. A national convention of office machine dealers checked in earlier this week. They leave Sunday. How safe should you feel if you walk into a building constructed since the Hyatt accident? We'll have some answers for you in tomorrow night's cover story. I'm Scott Feldman.